for recording. Welcome, everybody. Um, so this right now, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to observe your experience. So I would like to invite you to do that. It's really the best use of our time. So what do I mean by observe your experience? Well, I mean mostly observe everything that you're trying so hard to avoid seeing. For example, you might notice things that you would call just examples, but things such as impatience, irritation, anger, confusion, sadness, distrust, shame. Maybe you get the idea. Probably don't have to keep listing them. Boredom. That's a good one. There's a mechanism, function, whatever we want to call it, that you're probably, if you're taking this opportunity, you're probably noticing. And it's a function of occupation. Okay. It's a function of occupation. You've been occupied. You've been occupied, and on the one hand you hate it, and on the other hand you're desperate to keep it. Because if you were not occupied, then all of this would be here. All of this that you want to avoid. So when I suggest to observe your experience, what I mean is just tell the truth about this, to really notice in your actual experience presently, right now, not as a thought, not as a memory, not as some sort of hope, not as a fantasy of any kind, whether it's positive or negative, but just to notice what's actually happening and see how much effort you habitually make trying to avoid this because you have stories about it that say it's bad. And so this occupation that has become it's normal in your life. When I say your life, I mean it's in the no, it's the normal human condition. It's it's a this function of occupation, constantly wanting to be occupied. But we want freedom, don't we? We don't want occupation. So somebody has to tell the truth. Who's who's it going to be? Who are we waiting for? Do we really want to pretend anymore that it's okay? Occupation, on the one hand, it has such a uh, what the right word is. It, it seems so innocuous. I think maybe is the correct term. Just seems like who's gonna be the party pooper who's gonna say, oh, you can't be a little occupied. But look at your actual experience. Tell the truth about it. It's not it's not just a cute party game, is it? It's not just some little distraction. It's not just like you're flipping on the TV. It's hell. So, well, I think we could tell the truth about that. Let's not dress it up. Let's not pretend like it's something else. Let's just tell the truth about it. Because if we tell the truth about it, maybe we'll be the ones to actually start telling the truth, like really tell the truth, not just once a day as part of our spiritual practice or whatever it is that we do to make ourselves feel good about ourselves. It's all fine. But can we actually really tell the truth? moment to moment? Can we just be really honest? Let the guard down. Now, you don't have to be miserable to, you don't have to be miserable to awaken to reality as it is. There's no requirement for misery. Okay. So I'm not suggesting that you should force yourself to become miserable in order to arrive at something greater. Well, all I'm saying is just admit to the misery. Whatever misery there is, just admit to it. It might be a small amount, it might be a big amount, it doesn't matter, just whatever it is. So some people are more miserable than others. I'm one of those people. I've got a long uh, history, seems to go well beyond just my life, my family ancestry. It's just a lot of misery. Probably you can look back in your family ancestry and see a lot of misery too. But the good news is that freedom doesn't care about that. The only requirement is just honesty. So this occupation has misled us into believing that we've got to do something to be better, to earn this, to rise above it. And so then we can become occupied with that. And a whole new story forms about how I'm getting somewhere, I'm doing something, I'm fixing something, I'm making it, I'm not making it, I'm winning, I'm losing, I'm on the right path, I'm on the wrong path. All of this sort of drama comes up. But all that's really actually required is just honesty right now, not in the future, but just now, just honesty with ourselves in this moment. So again, let me clarify what I mean by that. So if we're talking about being honest or telling the truth, then what actually is required? It's a little deceptive. Maybe I should rephrase it. Okay, because telling the truth or being honest, which I'll probably end up saying again, but it sort of suggests something that we're aiming to get something positive. The truth sounds positive. It sounds like a thing that is positive that we can acquire. But that's not actually what I'm talking about, because if I'm pursuing something that I'm going to get, if I think I'm going to get this thing, if I think I can get hold of it and do something with it, and it's going to do something for me, then it's just more misery. So what I'm actually talking about is really, it's about acknowledging what it is that we've been trying to avoid. See, so everything. Like I said, the best use of our time is just make use of this time. It's not because I have some kind of special power, some sort of special transmission of something or another, and that makes this time somehow especially potent. It's not like that, but it is that we are coming together here with an intention, whether or not you recognize that consciously. Clearly there's an intention, and we're coming together. And so we can make use of that, and we can, in a sense, harness that power, the power of that intention, the power of that desire for freedom. That's what brings us together, isn't it? I mean, we're all over the world. We have different names, different histories, different ages, different stories, different everything. But this one thing we have that brings us together, which is this desire for freedom. And it's not a temporary freedom that we want. We want real freedom. We want freedom that's actually beyond the temporal. Because we see the suffering of the up and down, the clinging to, the grasping for some kind of future security, trying to get something, hold on to something, fix something, build something that we think is going to help us. We think that if we can succeed in that, that will give us what we want. And it's an interesting idea, but at the very least, we could probably see that it's very indirect. Or maybe I don't need to say very, let's just say it's indirect, right? I mean, can't you see that that's indirect? Say, I want happiness. So I'm going to do something, I'm going to achieve something, and then I'll be happy. And then we get lost in that because we say, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to be a celebrity, or I'm going to make $1 million, or I'm going to be the most generous, giving, selfless person on the planet, or whatever. We set up some path for ourselves, some sort of attainment that we're working toward, and then we think, once I achieve that, then I'll get happiness. And then we start mistaking that for happiness itself. So we're clinging to it because it seems like, or let's maybe not, happiness is maybe dressing it up too much. I mean, we just want to stop being in so much pain. And we think that if I succeed in this, then that will help me. If I succeed in being the most selfless, generous person on the planet, or if I succeed in making the most money, or if I succeed in running the marathon, or if I succeed in whatever my ambition is, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be okay. Then I'll stop suffering. Then I'll become enlightened. Then I'll be whatever. So if I say we have to, I would encourage us to make use of this time to observe our experience and see what's actually going on. Let's not try to make ourselves out to be something other than just what we are. Let's not try to become something greater. Let's not try to transcend. Let's not try to escape. Because if you get there, if you were to even succeed, just imagine that for a moment. If you succeeded, this is the self-honesty. I want you to look right now and see what you're hoping for, what you think, what your story is about, what you need to do, how it's going to work out, how you're going to be the big winner, how you're going to be the good one, the righteous one, the safe one, the smart one, the wise one, the whatever. However it is you formulated it for yourself, your formula for success. I want you to look at it and really see we can all do this together, and it will find out what happens. I believe that this can be very powerful. So let's do this together now, right now. See all of your ambition, all of your hope, all of the way in which you postpone fulfillment, all the ways in which you make it indirect. You say, once I achieve these things, then I'll be okay. And I want you to play that through. I want you to imagine that you've actually succeeded. You've actually become that person. You've done all the things that you needed to do. You did them perfectly. You've earned all of everything that you aimed to earn. You got everybody's approval, everybody's love, everybody's acceptance. You got a lot of money. Your health is fantastic. You're going to live forever. You're the smartest person on the planet. And then you take a look, really, sincerely, and see what really put yourself into that. I mean, I know it's like it's a exercise in imagination. It's not, you'd argue, oh, this isn't real. It doesn't seem like a good enough thing to do. Well, okay, just humor me. Really imagine for a moment that you've actually succeeded, and really look, did it give you what you wanted, or did it just give you what you were aiming for? Because they're not the same thing. What you want and what you're aiming for are not the same thing. What you're aiming for is a better story. Now, who wouldn't want a better story? I would like a better story. Everybody wants a better story. So we think. But that's where this radical self-honesty comes into play, because we have to look and see right now, if I succeed in my ambition, what will that give me? Will it give me what I really want? And if we really see the truth of this, we'll for sure recognize that we've been lying to ourselves. We were lying to ourselves because we believed that we were going to get what we wanted instead of what we were aiming at. It's because we didn't realize that we were aiming at what we were aiming at, because we believed that we were aiming at what we wanted. But that's why we have to look. We have to pause and look, and we have to be, I'll use the word, it's an odd word on many levels, I guess, but I'll use the word ruthless. We have to be ruthless, because our sentimentality will steer us in ways of deception if we are not ruthless about this. The things that we think are the most desirable turn out to be the prison. You think, I have to be a good person. I have to be a generous person. I have to be a compassionate person. I have to be a kind person. I have to be a capable person. It's a good one. To be a capable person. Look at your rules for everything that you have to be. I mean, am I, I guess, let me just verify that I'm talking to the right crowd, okay? Because every once in a while I have doubts about whether I'm talking to the right crowd. So you tell me, just let me formulate this correctly. So I'd like to see if you would please raise your hand for a moment if you don't, you can't relate at all to what I'm saying, and you don't have any rules for how you're supposed to be a successful human being in your life. So if you don't have those rules, please just raise your hand and hold it up for a moment just so I can see. Okay. So nobody's raising their hand yet. Okay. So either I'm speaking to the right crowd, or you don't want to admit that maybe you don't understand what I'm saying, or you don't want to admit that, I don't know. But I'm going to go with, I'm speaking with the right audience. So these rules that we have, can you see how much these rules dominate your life? Can you see how they affect every moment of your life, everything that you do, every every decision, every single one is influenced by these rules about who you have to be in order to succeed, in order to be okay, in order to be worthy, in order to be lovable, in order to be whatever it is, whatever your particular constellation is. It's these rules dominate everything that we do. And so we don't know how to be, we don't know how to actually, we have it inverted. We don't know how to actually be free because we believe that freedom is suffering. That's how distorted we have it. We have it completely flipped around. We think that actual freedom, the reality of freedom, what is really honestly free, we believe that that is suffering. And on the other hand, we believe that what is actually suffering is freedom. We think that we will find freedom in the pursuit of what is actually suffering. Or let's put it another way, we think that we'll find freedom by means of suffering. We think that we will find it by means of suffering, suffering being the pursuit of freedom. Because what good does freedom do you if it's always tomorrow? Imagine that you're in a prison, and every day the prison guards come and they say, congratulations, it's your last day. Tomorrow you're going to get out. And maybe for a little while, first day, second day, third day, fourth day, maybe you kind of believe it. How much longer are you going to believe it though? Hasn't it been going on for a long time? Every day the prison guards come and they say, today this is your last day. Freedom is tomorrow. So we have to look and see that we're not going to be satisfied with that. So let's not wait for somebody else to free us. Let's not wait for somebody else to give us permission. Let's not wait for anything. We can look right now. And whatever the rules are, whatever the conditions are that have been set up in your thinking, in your conditioning, your belief system, your perspective, your identity, it's all kind of the same thing. All of those are saying the same thing. Whatever that is, whatever that particular constellation is, Just see it, and just see that it will never give you fulfillment. See that all of those rules will never give you fulfillment. No matter how good of a person you are, it will not give you fulfillment. No matter how nice of a person you are, it won't give you fulfillment. No matter how uh, uh, self-sacrificing you are, won't give you fulfillment. No matter how healthy you are, it won't give you fulfillment. No matter how long you live, it won't give you fulfillment. No matter anything, any of the rules that you might have. Now, just to be clear, it doesn't mean that any of those things are inherently bad. Some of them, I don't know, depends on your rules, I guess. But none of them are inherently bad. It's just that when those are the when those are the rules, and then you're in prison, and you're just believing every time. The prison, you see, this is the thing, is the prison guards have a real racket going. Let me see. Because they come every day and they tell you it's the last day. You're going to be free tomorrow. Just wait. And then they're, as soon as they close the door, they believed it again, they say. Prison guards, because they've got a racket going. Because there's no door. There's no walls. There's no bars. There's no chains. There's no lock. There's no prison. They're just persuading you day after day after day that there is, and that you need to escape from it, or that you need to wait until your time. And in any case, you see that your whole life becomes nothing more than just a reaction. Either you're reacting because you say, well, I'm getting out tomorrow. That's one reaction. Or the other is, I'll never get out. Every day they tell me I'm getting out, but I never get out. It's hopeless. I'm in prison. And what never happens until it does is to actually just look and see the reality of it, see it for what it is. So the prison is constructed only, you look and see, you'll see this is true right now. What keeps you imprisoned? And the answer to that question, where is the exit, is there is none. There's no exit. Because an exit is only a reaction. An exit presumes that the prison is primary reality. You see, the exit presumes that there really is a prison. If there is a prison, then there will be an exit. There'll be an entrance and an exit. But there was never a prison. There's no exit. You never were in it. You've only been, hypnotized. Wouldn't that be nice? But it's true. So if you want to wake up from the hypnosis, that's what I'm saying, that you can be, it's just radical honesty, telling the truth, seeing every belief as a belief. This is really it. I mean, we can do all kinds of other things. We can fancy it up. We can dress it up. We can, uh, there are more and less skillful ways to facilitate this seeing. So I'm not saying that any of the techniques and the whatever are not useful or appropriate. What I am saying is that at the essence, the core of it is this, what I'm saying to you. It's about seeing what's actually happening. And simply that. It's just to continue to see what's actually happening. Because when you see what's actually happening, you see that there is no prison. You probably have heard, anybody who's ever taken a freshman psychology class has surely heard of the Stanford prison experiment. But in case you haven't, it was a study done. If I'm getting the name correct, then I'm presuming it was done at Stanford University. I don't remember when this was, like maybe the 1970s. Somebody's going to tell me, but it doesn't matter. But it was these college students were participating, and I think it was all males. I'm not sure. I think it was all males. Anyway, half of them were arbitrarily were selected to play the role of the prison guards. Half of them were selected arbitrarily to play the role of the prisoner, and it got out of hand. It got out of hand. It's like, I don't know, 30 years before Abu Ghraib, they knew because they saw it happening. Just like a weekend, some college students over a weekend playing prison guard, playing prisoner, and they were starting already, you see. So they had to end it because it was too much. So why am I mentioning this? I don't know, because it came to mind. Because this is what's happening. We've got so wrapped up in it, so caught up in it, we believe that it's real. Can you imagine these college students? Imagine yourself in, like, you know that 2 days ago you started an experiment. You know that you're in college. You're not a prison guard and you're not a prisoner. You know that that's reality, but over the last 2 days, suddenly this game, this experiment, this study has become very, very real for you. And you start making a lot of weird decisions. You see, you say, well, you imagine yourself as you're playing this role of the prisoner, and you say, well, I'll never be happy until I'm out. And that guard Jim, he's got it coming to him for all the stuff he's done to me. When I get out, he better watch his back. Now you might say that's crazy, but I'm telling you, look at your own mind. If you don't see it, that's exactly what's happening. Let me know. Yeah, any excuse will do. That's right. And by the way, you'll come up with some doozies. We always do. We always come up with them. It's like whatever your circumstances are, you will. Those will be the excuse. Doesn't matter. I mean, you look around. Look. Here's the thing. Look at the celebrities. Pick them. Any one. I don't care. Any one of them. Do they appear happy to you? Those people with the most power, the most money, those who the majority of people agree are the most beautiful, most attractive, smartest people, are they actually happy? I mean, you don't know because you're not them, but I mean, come on. Do they strike you as happy? Genuinely? Actually? Deeply satisfied? No. I mean, just look at their behavior. It's all over the tabloids. You know, they're not happy. So we think that if we get, if we can just achieve things, yeah, we still want prizes, of course. But I hope you see that that's the game. I want prizes is the game that you mistake for reality. Think I'll be satisfied when I get the prizes. I'll be okay when I get the prizes. I'll be content when I get the prizes. When everybody loves me, then I'll be okay. So the the shortcut, and oh boy, I know you're not going to like this. I know you're not going to like this because this is because I don't like it. I don't even like it. I'm just like you. I think just like you, just like exactly like you. I think all these things. I think that if I could just have all of these prizes, then I'd be happy. So I don't like this truth either. Who wants to see themselves for what they are? Who wants to see how miserable they are? Who wants to see how much of a liar they are? Who wants to see how mean and cruel and vindictive they are? I mean, come on, nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see that either, but I don't but I don't want to suffer. And I'm really clear on that. So, if you let's say you really you don't like pick a food, kale, liver, whatever. You pick a thing. You don't like it. But if you knew for sure, 100%, no doubt, that actually every time you eat it, you'll feel better and you'll actually enjoy it. It's just the anticipation of it that you don't like. You're just grumpy. You'd do it, wouldn't you? Even if you knew, I mean, let's say kale, okay, and you just every time you think of kale, you just ugh, ugh. Okay, but every time you eat kale, you feel like, or let's say spinach, because then you feel like Popeye, you're like, okay, let's go, ready to go. Well, you would just eat the spinach, wouldn't you? You wouldn't really give too much concern after enough repetition of it. You wouldn't give too much concern to the thoughts that complain about the spinach. Yeah, that's right. Brilliant. Yes, that's exactly it. I'm glad you used the word screaming. So just for those who didn't see the question, what if I feared that eating kale would result in screaming death? I like that you used the word screaming because that was a word that I didn't use earlier, but I had that image when I was talking about looking to see what's actually going on. When we look to see what's actually going on, it's like I want to scream. There's a scream going on. So look to see, look to see how it is that you believe your thoughts. You believe what they say. You believe the images. You believe the memories. I've said this before. I'll say it again now. Years ago, I think it was on NPR, I heard a segment about, um, and I don't remember any of the details. I'm just letting you know. But I did hear this years ago about this research that had been done where they uh, the researchers interviewed people who had been witnesses to significant, what they coin significant events. So I don't know, let's say 9/11, raise some hackles there. Okay, but 9/11, so just as an example, I think this was before 9/11 that I heard this, I think. So didn't include 9/11, but as an example, let's see. Okay, so you've got people who are witness to something, and then the interviewers interview them about this, and they ask them to describe the experience and what they saw. And turns out nobody remembers the same thing. Nobody. No two people remember the same thing. Sometimes they remember wildly divergent things. Oftentimes they remember similar things, but then there are these significant little details that they remember differently. So, so our memories too are suspect. You see, we if we believe that we know, if we believe that that's true, if we believe that our story is true, our memory is true, our history is true, our thoughts are true, our fantasies are true, our hopes are true, our rules are true, all that, you see, all of that is the way we construct the prison that doesn't exist. We believe that that's true. Why do we need to even consult that? Just take a look. Why on earth would we need to consult that? Look right now. Why would we need to consult all of that? Yeah, that's right. Just following the program. And the other response I also agree with, trying to get rid of what's happening, trying to control what's happening, trying to fix what's happening. But it's a vicious cycle because they just feed one another. Don't you see? So you say, I have a memory. I know what's right. I know what's true. I know. And so based upon that, what do? Well, you react in exactly the way that you're programmed to. And then what happens? Well, more evidence to support your claim, your belief, new memory to insert in there in the memory banks that confirms your existing conditioning. So then the next time something triggers that, say, well, look, now I've got two memories. Must be true. It's not just one memory, it's two memories. You get three memories and four memories and five memories, all of them confirming. Then you got, by the time you're a couple decades, you got so many memories that confirm. And you just say, well, look, I just know it's true. But no, you don't. You don't know anything. Not a thing. You don't know anything for sure. And that's why this is the boldest thing that a person can do. And it's possibly why nobody does it. I say nobody, very few people do it. Because this is what I'm proposing is the equivalent of running naked through Times Square. It's against the rules. It's not quite that bad, but it does seem like it. I agree. So see what I'm how what I'm saying, how this links up. Okay, so I'm saying that what I'm proposing a remedy, and this remedy that I'm proposing, I'm claiming is bold. I'm claiming it's the boldest thing that person can do. I'm claiming that it's like running naked in Times Square, which that's a great. I actually like that example better than jumping out of a plane without a parachute. Here's why. Because if you jump out of a plane without a parachute, physics is going to take over, and you're likely to die. Now, there are people who survive. Another program I heard years ago on NPR um, told some stories about some people who did survive some catastrophic parachute failures. So it does happen on occasion, but unlikely to have the same kinds of consequences if you're running naked in Times Square. Why? Because the physics is different. So physics is more like, let's say, I mean, I wouldn't say that physics is the ultimate reality, but within a certain context, we could say physics is like reality. And then, so running naked in Times Square, physics. On our side, there's not really anything different. The physics, Newtonian physics of running naked in Times Square and running clothes, or just walking, strolling through Times Square with clothes on, not so different. I mean, it's not that different. But notice how different it is for you. Do you see what I'm talking about? It's different for you. Why? Because of the rules. Because you're not supposed to. Because people would see you. You'd be exposed. You wouldn't have anything to hide anymore. So that's why I'm proposing its boldest thing. Not because it actually puts us in physical danger, because it doesn't. Probably not. But it puts us in danger of being exposed as frauds. And not just being exposed as frauds, but our whole history, our whole past is fraudulent. Our whole identity is fraudulent. We're being exposed. The prison is fraudulent. The prison guards are fraudulent. You see, we blame everything and everyone. I'm married, so I blame my wife for everything. I do. It's horrible. I mean, fortunately, I don't believe it, but it's still, God, it's just terrible. I see it happening all the time. But do you see, we blame. It's like, oh, my circumstances, my parents, my government, my wife, my neighbors, my boss, the right wingers, the left wingers, whatever. I mean, you just on and on. Christians, the Jews, the Muslims. I mean, you're going to find somebody to blame. And then see what happens. The the internal war becomes an external war. And you ask people, what are they fighting about? Nobody knows. Nobody really knows. I mean, you say, well, because they shot first. And all I'm saying is, we've had enough. After a while, do you care who shot first? Does it really matter who shot first? And this is okay, so this is a thing that often does come up for people. This, I'm saying who shot first, but it's people get caught up in perceiving that there is something there that they need to act. There's some underlying thing that they need to address. They think there's got to be a good reason for all this. And so they believe, therefore, that there's some underlying thing that they have to actually get to the root of and fix it. And of course, anytime anybody looks, honestly, they'll see there's nothing, right? You'll see. Look right now, where is the prison? You think you're in a prison. Don't tell me you don't. I mean, of course you do. Because you're not doing, you're restraining yourself. You're restraining yourself. Or you're occupying yourself. But it's not, you don't perceive it as total freedom. There's some way in which you perceive it as a prison. So look and see. Do you believe that there's some underlying issue that you have to fix before you can be free, before you can be out of this prison? And of course the answer is yes. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you what your experience is, even though it sounds like that maybe. I'm just saying, like, I know what the human condition is. People sometimes they work they on it. It's just fascinating to me. People often don't see what's so obvious. And here's the thing: don't you see it in everybody else? I mean, don't you see it in your wife or your husband or your neighbors, your mother, your father, your children, your friends? Don't you see in them? Don't you see how they are creating, constructing prisons for themselves? Don't you see that in them? Probably you do. Probably you can see that more easily for other people. You can see that their rules are silly, right? Don't you think, oh gosh, that's so silly. Why are they doing that? They're making their lives miserable. They don't need to do that. There's no benefit in doing that. They would be happier if they would stop doing that. You see it. If you try to mention it to them, how do they react? How dare you? How dare you tell me? Okay. So don't tell them. Tell yourself. But then you see the same reaction in you, right? You say, don't you dare tell me. So then we've been exposed for exactly what we are. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't you see? It's like we think we have to be successful. We think we have to win at something. We think we have to arrive at some kind of perfected state before we can finally have permission to be free. We think only when I'm good, only when I don't think these terrible things, only when I don't have these terrible impulses, only when I don't want to lash out, only when this wild animal, this cornered, terrified wild animal in me is finally gone, you see, then I'll be free. Then I'll give myself permission to be free. Because why? We don't trust ourselves. We think that there's something wrong with us. So we think we have to get this under control. We think that we are the cause of our problems, but we're not. That we don't have problems. It's like the same as there's no exit to the prison because there's no prison. We're not the cause of our problems. There are no problems. We're, I mean, just forget about cause entirely. Just be very direct. Be very bold. What do you want? Just tell the truth about what you want. You just want freedom, don't you? You just want freedom. And you don't even know what that means. But you know it's true. You don't know what it is, but you know it's true. Somehow in your heart of hearts, you know that what you want is freedom. and you have some little glimmer of it, but you don't know for sure. And the reason you don't know for sure is only because of that, because every time that the prison guards show up and they say, tomorrow, we're going to let you out. And there's going to be a parade too. And you say, oh, a parade. Well, I wouldn't want to spoil that by getting out early. I'll just wait for the parade tomorrow. That will be nice. And besides, they give me a bed, they give me food. I don't have to worry about bills. It's okay, actually. It's not so bad. I'll wait until tomorrow. And I'm just saying, don't wait until tomorrow, because tomorrow will be the same song and dance, like it always is. So the real freedom is now. And it's just in it's just in the admission now. It's just in the clear seeing now. Not seeing what you want to see, just seeing what is. You've been playing the game of waiting to see what you want to see. Like every morning, isn't there some little secret hope? When I wake up today will be the magical day. Today will be the magical day in which I'm no longer in prison. Everything's okay. And we wake up, and what do? We say, oh, I'm in prison. I'm in prison today. And then the prison guards come and they say, tomorrow you're going to get out. And so we say, well, it's tomorrow, so I guess I'll just wait. But don't wait. Look now. And then just stop telling yourself, or stop believing the lie that you're in prison. Don't believe it. All right. So let's open it up if you have questions or anything. This is a great opportunity. Oh, let me just say a couple of things briefly. One is I'm recording this. It will be up on YouTube publicly. So if you do speak, you'll be in the video on YouTube publicly. If you don't wish to be in the video, but you do wish to ask a question, you can use the chat feature to type that in. The second thing I want to tell you is it's an announcement that these meetings are going to be on hiatus immediately following today, indefinitely. I'm moving and don't have utilities at the new property yet. So I have to, I'm choosing to wait until I have utilities at the property to figure out the schedule for any future meetings. So we'll be putting these on hold. I'll be sending out an email about that as well. What is that? Hiatus. I see. You mean what is hiatus? It just means putting them on hold. So next week there will not be a meeting on Tuesday, and there's not one planned. I'm not planning one for the following week either. I'm not sure how soon I'll have utilities. Where due to world events, as you know, many things are slower to happen right now, and so we're just waiting for the utility companies to be able to bring service. So we don't have a date for that at this time. And I see there were. Let me see. I just want to make sure I didn't miss something there in the chat. And yes, I will send an email when the meetings are resuming. Yes. And if you want to speak, you may just go ahead and speak. Yeah.
Joey, I think the postponement game that I'm playing goes something like, if I could only submit to this moment and accept it as it is, then I will get what I really want.
Yeah.
So I'm not so sure how one, yeah. I'm not clear on how I'm trapping myself.
Well, because there's a condition. I mean, you say the way you present it sounds very nice. It's like this is how we fool ourselves. We sugarcoat it, make it seem like something that seems very reasonable and sensible and hard to argue with, but it's deceptive because what you look at what you actually mean. So this is the thing about language. And you often hear people say that the word is not the thing, the map is not the territory, and so we hypnotize ourselves with language because we say something that seems so reasonable on the surface. Well, the goal is to surrender. When I surrender, all will be well. Hard to argue with that, but look to see what you actually intend by that, and you'll see that. Well, let me not even tell you what you'll see. Let's just look together right now. So look to see, what do you actually mean when you say that, when you talk about surrender, future surrender? How will you know when that has occurred? How will you know when you're successful in that?
I think I imagine that I'll be emotionally non-reactive.
Right. Great. So that's much more honest. So so when you talk about surrender, what you actually mean is a particular state.
Yes.
Yeah. So the states come and go. If our freedom depended upon the states that come and go, that wouldn't be freedom. Right? I mean, can you see that that's true?
Sure,
Okay.
Yes.
So the surrender that you're talking about is not true surrender. The surrender that you're talking about is like it's like, like the kid who wants ice cream and is throwing a tantrum. And they say, oh, it's because I want ice cream. So there's an agenda. There's this somewhat hidden agenda, not well hidden, but a slightly obscured agenda, which is, I want the ice cream. I want the feeling state that I think is the most desirable feeling state, and I'm going to call that surrender. When I achieve that, then I'll be okay. So it sounds like the truth, but it's not the truth because it's deceptive, because the surrender is not real surrender. I mean, obviously the word is not the thing, so the word surrender doesn't mean anything, but we can use it to point to something, right? And what we're using it to point to is not ice cream. It's not a feeling state that comes and goes. It's I don't know, I don't know what a philosopher would call it. Maybe they would have a term for this, but it is well, let's just look right now. Okay, let's look at the actuality of surrender. Let's see if we need to put it off. Let's see if it needs to be conditional or not. So whatever is happening right now, I'll ask this as a question. Are you aware of that? Are you aware of whatever's happening? Okay. And does this awareness change? Are you more or less aware, or aware somehow differently if there's a feeling state that you like versus if there's a feeling state that you don't like? So then this is our baseline, is this awareness. Okay, this awareness does not care whether it's a feeling state that you think you like or it's a feeling state that you think you don't like. So this is already the case. And this is what we overlook. You see, this is how free we really are. It's a greater freedom than the freedom that we imagined we needed. It's much, much greater because it's a freedom that is totally wide open. There are
Yes,
no,
I think, yeah. I think the mistake I make is that I think it disappears when certain emotional states arise.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, yes, absolutely. And that's exactly what I've been trying to, is that that these rules that we have are how we judge whether we're successful or not. And the rules, when we really look at them, we'll see are baseless. So we have these rules that say, for example, I am a peaceful person, or we'll just say that. Okay, I'm a peaceful person. So then we have that rule sets up this condition. We say, well, in order for me to be myself, I have to be peaceful, and peaceful means means a particular feeling state. So we're just using codes to try and hypnotize ourselves. Say, I'm a peaceful person. Peaceful is a particular feeling state. Therefore, I must have that feeling state that I call peace in order to be okay, in order to be acceptable, in order to be enlightened, in order to be making progress, in order to be whatever, as confirmation that I'm on the right path, that I'm doing well, that I'm succeeding. So but here's the thing, okay, then you look and you see that this bundle of conditioning is just what it is. This bundle of conditioning is not, I'm trying to think of a good way to, a good analogy. I'm not thinking of one, so I'll not try, but it's just a bundle of conditioning. That's all it is. It doesn't mean anything about us. And so inevitably, this bundle of conditioning gets triggered. And there's going to be reactivity. Then there will be this rule that surfaces, well, but I have to be a peaceful person. Well, I'm not feeling so peaceful. I'm feeling pretty agitated. well, I guess I'm not there yet. I guess I'm not okay yet. I guess I'm not, I guess it's not, I guess I'm not surrendered yet. So I better try harder. But the deeper surrender, the true surrender, is the surrender to that. It's the surrender. It's such a unconditional surrender. It's really just an unconditional surrender. This doesn't.
Yes,
There's no rules that apply.
yes, yes. I hope I may be adding something to the discussion by bringing up the Buddhist concept of equanimity, because this is often regarded as the holy grail of the spiritual search, that one will find equanimity. And I think the mistake that I have made, and perhaps many others also make, is assuming that the equanimity refers to a state which one will reach in one's physical existence, in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think what you're talking about is an equanimity which is seen in the awareness of what is going on in the body.
It's actually both. It's a good point what you're saying, and it's both. The difficulty is that most of us have the the cart before the horse, and so we believe incorrectly that we need to produce a particular and sustained feeling state that we call peace or equanimity or transcendence or whatever term we want to use for it, and we think that is the way.
Yeah.
And that's incorrect, because what actually is the case is it's that we discover that only when we surrender. When we surrender our delusional personal power. When we surrender that in the moments in which it's the last thing we think we want to do. Because we think in those moments that I must continue to strive, I must keep trying, I must keep trying to fix, because this is desperate. It's a desperate moment. I have to do this now. Because look, I'm so agitated. I'm so vengeful. I'm so cruel. I'm so whatever, or whatever state is appearing, or whatever really is like whatever judgments we have about this state, whatever those judgments are, we mistake those to be reality, and then we act accordingly. So we say, well, look, it's urgent. Look at what I'm clearly not enlightened, because look how agitated I am. I'm so angry I could rip a puppy's head off. You know, that's how angry I am. That's how much pain I'm experiencing, and that's definitely not the state that I've been striving for. So therefore, now is definitely not the time for surrender. And this comes back to what I was saying earlier. We think we mistake the rules for reality, and we think that we have to appease all of the rules before we can be okay. And what I'm saying is that the deeper surrender, and this is you could call it a paradox, I guess. Maybe it's a paradox, which is it's when we cease to strive for whatever we want to call it, equanimity, enlightenment, peace, freedom, happiness, contentment, fulfillment. When we cease to strive for it is when the reality of it comes alive for us. And this is tricky, because then people misunderstand that, and they almost everybody misunderstands that, and they think, oh, well, then I guess I should just go revert to my ways of youth, my hedonistic ways of being when I was a teenager, because I guess that was better. And I'll just forget about everything else. And that's a misunderstanding. I'm not saying you're having that misunderstanding, but I just want to clear that up for anybody who might have that misunderstanding. That's not at all what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that we in order to actually surrender, to true surrender, true I'll just use the word surrender. True surrender is not just I'll kick back a few beers and watch some TV. I mean, maybe it looks like that, but it's not usually going to look like that. True surrender, as I'm using the term, is a requires what I would call presence or conscious awareness, because we have to actually be aware of our habits so that we can cease to indulge those habits. So the surrender doesn't mean, well, just whatever happens, happens. Because whatever happens, happens depends on your level of consciousness. If you're unconscious, what's going to happen, guaranteed, is more of the same. You're just going to repeat the same things you've always done. So in order for there to be a real, and that was not surrender, for there to be a real surrender, a true surrender, a real humbling, a real clear seeing of your true nature as you know, I mean, there's two sides to it, I guess we could say. There's the side of it of your powerlessness, and there's the side of it that is your pure power. And to see this is requires this presence. It requires that we're conscious. It requires that we are attentive. And in order to do that, we have to be well, my experience of it is that it happens, I'll use the word progressively. It's not the nicest term. I guess it's a term that a lot of people don't like. I have some objections to it, but I don't know what else to say about it. It's progressive because we don't, at first we don't know anything. But we think we know something. So we're very disoriented. We're very confused. We think we have a direction, and that direction is that way. Or we could say we think we have a direction, and the direction is not that way. It's one or the other. It's either the direction is that way or it's not that way. Okay, that's how we start out. We think we know something. We think we know the direction, and we're sure of it. After a while, we realize, wait a second, that's not correct. So then we have some wisdom a little bit, because we realize, I don't know. I don't know anymore. I just don't know. I'm clear that I don't know. I thought I knew, but now I know that I didn't know, because that was just wrong. I can see now that that was wrong. So this is the next step. We realize, okay, I don't know. So this is like waking up to our powerlessness, waking up to, I can't get it right. I can't fix it. I can't solve it. Everything that I do trying to improve things makes things worse. No matter how much success I have, I'm just as unhappy, maybe even more unhappy. So that's this step. Then there's another step, which is in this surrender. So that's like the first step of surrender, just to realize, I don't know. I really don't know. All I can really say is my direction is not a good direction, apparently. So that's the first step of surrender. But then the next step of surrender, and this is maybe tricky. This is where all the rules really are highlighted is even deeper than that, is an acceptance of that power. When you really accept that power, then you realize just how immense that power is, and you're perhaps very cautious about utilizing it, because you see that you as you imagine yourself to be, you as you conceive of yourself to be, you know at this point that you don't personally have ownership of enough wisdom to make good use of that power. So the deeper surrender comes from this wisdom, which is the recognition that this power has always been, always will be, transcendent of your self-concept. So anything that arises out of your self-concept is you know that that's not a good direction. So then what becomes natural to it's a phrase that's coming to mind, so I'll use it, just to wait and see. And this is people get hung up on this. People sometimes respond in strong ways and get agitated by that because they perceive that they need to do something. It seems very urgent. They need to do something. And it seems like the suggestion to wait and see, to really wait and see, to actually be that present that you're just seeing, is so offensive to them that they become upset. I was one of those people. I wanted to hit somebody.
Joey, can I ask?
Sure.
Um, First of all, I just want to comment on what you've guided me like 4 months ago about the energy, the pure energy, rather than labeling about the energy. Um, Specifically, you pointed me towards, like, I asked you about loneliness, and um, so in this meeting you talked about the strategies, right, to get away from this feeling. And so when I saw that as pure energy, um, just being with the direct experience rather than trying to get away or get solutions, or first of all calling it something else, like just letting go of all of that. um, I mean, it was pretty overwhelming. It was but there was just freedom in not straining. Yeah, I could feel that strain before. It was more it was, I guess I was not really aware of the physical, the forehead tension. But when I let go of all of that, and even, yeah, we talk about falling sensation. It's just like the falling.
Mhm.
I felt that. I felt like everything was just falling apart.
Mhm.
I couldn't get hold of anything. It was just like a heartbreak that's never ending heartbreak. But I'm just allowing everything. It's just like it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. That's like a repeated okayness. So that has been my experience with the pure energy.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like that pure energy is the direct experience that you talk about in all of your books and blogs, and that pure energy is something is allowing that unconditionally. I don't know what that thing is, but it's if I just don't label it and just get out of my way of thinking out of it, it's just allowed and just I'm just participating in that allowing loving space. Um,
Yes. Yes. That's good.
yeah. So everything, every experience, I'm just like, it might be anything. I'm just participating in that space of unconditional love. It's basically, I thought I gotta get love, but I feel like, oh, this is self love. This is what is it is. It's just participating in this love, which sees realities as it is rather than through the constructed mind's interpretation of what it is, and to rather than being reactive, it's more like going inside of me. It's flowing inside rather than me getting out of my way. Um, so the question I have though is that being itself? I'm still stuck in that. So what happens is like there's this image that I have of what beingness is like. Beingness is this effortless sense, and I, it's still kind of sometimes I feel pretty 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 high about it. Sometimes it's whenever I see, oh, I'm here. It's even though I'm feeling overwhelmed. I can just let go and be with the direct experience. And when I look at am I being, the mind comes with us. Mind comes up with an excuse, and it says like, but this way, so so this being is boring or like not enough, or it's but I know it's just a thought, but
Mhm. Well, yeah, you can see how it will tries one strategy, and if that doesn't work, it tries the opposite. So it says it's overwhelming, and then that doesn't work, and so then it says this is boring. It can't be overwhelming and boring. But try, it's gonna. This is overwhelming. That didn't work. Oh, this is boring, and then that works. You say, oh yeah, it's boring, but it's not. It's not anything, and that's why I was saying it's this power. This when you recognize, I mean, which you are recognizing, and you recognize this power that is beyond your self-concept, then you start to recognize that you don't personally have the wisdom to know how to direct that.
what do you mean by self-concept?
Well, all of your judgments are based on your self-concept.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, all of your judgments are based on your idea of what's good and what's bad, and that's all
You mean
based on your
you mean the constructive identity?
all of it.
Okay.
And so then you can see all up up until recently in your life, almost everything that you've ever done has been based upon that self-concept. So everything's been a reaction based upon that self-concept. You want to protect yourself. You want to project yourself as being good, likable, strong, friendly, smart, all these sorts of things. You want to hide all the things that you think are not so great. So you start to see, well, all of my best attempts based on my self-concept have really not succeeded. They've really just created more suffering in my life. So then you start to recognize, if I just don't have the wisdom to be able to know what is good and what is right. I don't know. I have no idea. So then you, if you start to see that, then you start to wonder, maybe, why delude yourself by trying to trying to do anything with it.
Trying to do anything with the identity, you mean?
And no, with this power. So that's what I was. So you were saying that you. I don't remember exactly what you said, but you had said something about that you were describing some kind of recognition, and then you said that you have this question about being, and you have these ideas about it, and so you're in you touch upon this power, you surrender to this power. You're describing that process and that experience, and it sounds really nice. And then you say that some doubt, hesitation, concern, worry, question arises, and then you try and figure it out. So you're trying to make use of that power. You surrender, you receive the power, you are immersed in it, and then when this doubt arises, you throw that all away. You say, oh, I'm going to use this, I'm going to make use of this power to find the answer to this thing, to this question. But you have to look and see why. What is that going to do for you? What it's, the proposal always behind it is, it's going to give you something that you can hold on to in the future. It's going to be better.
Well, I look at your blogs, I look at your books, you talk about being, and I feel like that's like a thing I gotta get it. Like,
yeah,
effortless being.
But what I'm pointing to, what I'm saying is that is the condition that you're making.
So what I get is like I saw my power, and I got this doubt, and I'm again in this loop of like figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I be with the direct experience, I mean, we all call it differently. I remember you saying that's being or awareness, conscious awareness, but just go with what satisfies you is what you said. I remember, and definitely if I think about the being, and it definitely adds strain, but if it's just letting go into this endless allowing, of when I think of that, it's when I make sense of it, it's endless failure and just like there's no way I can stop it. It's just like I'm just absorbing all of it. The only power I have is just absorption without restrictions. Or
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like the it's like we're like babies, and we say, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And then when it becomes obvious eventually that we're not going to do it, we can't do it. And then our mother picks us up and holds us. And all that we need to do is surrender. There's nothing more that needs to be done. But then what do? We say, no, but I want to do it. And that's why I'm suggesting this honesty, because we can see what if you do it or you don't do it, what does that matter to you? It doesn't matter to you. It really doesn't. No matter what you accomplish, it doesn't matter. It's really not going to matter. It's not going to it's not going to help you in what you want. We can deceive ourselves up until the moment of our death, I guess, that we're going to accomplish something, achieve something, fix something, figure something out, do something. And that's going to be the thing that's going to help us. It's going to save us. It's going to fix us. It's going to make everything okay. And then from then on, everything will be wonderful. And what I'm pointing to is, see the lie of it. It's just totally untrue. You never, so what? Accomplish all these things. And what will it give you? It won't. It won't give you what you think. It won't give you real contentment. It won't give you real fulfillment. It won't actually satisfy you, because none of those things are capable of satisfying you. It doesn't matter how you could have anything, and you could accomplish anything, and it won't satisfy you. Really, just see that no matter how much you acquire, how much you achieve, how much you accomplish, won't do it. It won't give you what you really want. You'd have anything and everything, and it won't satisfy you. And so then the question is, well, why am I struggling so much for satisfaction when I know that none of the struggle will produce satisfaction? So then where is the satisfaction? Is there satisfaction? Well, let's look in the one place that we haven't really looked, which is in that failure. So that means surrender and failure are pointing to the same thing. It's just I mean, the actuality of both is the same. The actuality, the reality of surrender and failure is the same. We don't conceive of them as the same, but the reality is the same. Because we think surrender is going to be something, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think most of the time in these kind of contexts, we think of surrender as something positive. But no, it's like surrender in war. Okay. Because there's a war going on, isn't there? I mean, we're engaged in battle, and the surrender is not this. Surrender is not this all warm, fuzzy, delightful roses and rainbows and so forth. It's very humbling. Very, very humbling. It means I failed. I failed to win. I failed in my ambition to grasp this power for myself, to hold this power for myself. I thought I was going to win. That was what I was doing. I was going to win this war, and I was going to have all the power in my hands. and the surrender is to admit defeat. I have lost. I did not succeed. I failed so badly that I don't think it's even possible to fail worse than this. It's a total failure, absolute, complete failure. It's not like we got 99% of the way. We didn't get anywhere. All we did was just produce misery. All we did was hurt and hurt others. So the surrender is deeply humbling. I mean, really, really humbling. It means I am not what I think I am. I am not victorious. I am not wise. I am not great. I am not all powerful. I am not all knowing. I am not any of these things. And yes, that's right. Regarding the comment that just came across about the way that surrender is often presented, it's true. Then we imagine it. When I surrender, then I'll get everything, and it's true. So whatever your it doesn't even, I mean, to trust that is true, I think is kind of essential, because if we don't trust that that's true, then we won't actually surrender. Because in and you think about this, in war, if you believe, I want you to imagine now that you're at war with your enemy. And I want you to imagine that your enemy is wholly evil, entirely evil, nothing but evil, 100% evil, through and through. Not a single speck of decency, mercy, or anything, just evil. Only desire is to harm and kill. Will you surrender? Don't say yes, because you won't.
No.
So to surrender means to acknowledge goodness. It's to acknowledge that what actually is what is actually good. And that is what I'm saying is humbling, because it means my idea of what is good is wrong. My idea of what is bad is wrong. And that somehow, somewhere deep down, I'm acknowledging that the reality of what is actually good. And yes, 100% that I agree with the comment that came across, that it doesn't mean that you don't help yourself. To help yourself is just to be radically honest, to no longer hurt yourself, because that's the thing is, when who wins at war? Nobody. I mean, isn't that obvious? It should be obvious, but maybe it's not. Who wins at war? Nobody. Look, who's ever won at war? I mean, you say they won because they got all the gold and whatever. They didn't. Everybody loses. So for sure, surrender does not mean not helping yourself. To surrender is to help yourself. To surrender is to help yourself, because it's to recognize that every time that I'm at war, I'm hurting myself. Every time that I'm at war, I am the casualty. And I'm tired of it. I'm so tired of it that I won't do it anymore. And then, and you have to commit. You have to commit to that. And then, and the commitment is important because you're almost guaranteed to fail. So you have to do it again. You know, it's like, I'm going to surrender. Oh, I failed. Okay. Surrender now. Oh, I failed. Okay, surrender now. And that's, to me, that's living inquiry. And
sorry.
I know that sounds like the worst thing to some people, because they want to just get to someplace. They want to arrive somewhere where it's, from now on, I can just zone out and just experience endless gratification. And I've tried that. I've tried a lot of things, and I don't find any of it to be as satisfying as the truth. Somebody asked me the other day if hypothetically, if it was possible, somebody could give me a pill and guarantee me that I would have a lifetime of bliss, wouldn't I take it? I said, no. Why? And maybe that doesn't make any sense, but I've experienced sustained bliss. And it's, in and of itself, it's not totally satisfying. The only thing that really satisfies is reality, truth, which doesn't, it's not dependent on anything. It's unconditional. There's nothing that can be in the way of the truth. The truth is just the truth. It's obvious. So we're at almost 2 hours. I'm going to choose to wrap this up in a few minutes, but if there's anything else before we conclude today, let me know.
There kind of is. Hello.
Sure.
Hi, everybody, by the way. Let's see if my mind will flick it back to me now. It has been recommended to me in different ways, in different forums, that believing my mind is not going to help. And you know, the recommendation has been, given to me very simply and strongly: don't believe your mind. Simply don't believe your mind. And I guess I've had experiences in which it felt like I had almost attained to a place where it was like, oh, I don't believe, it was like I sort of, it was almost like momentum built up and then somehow fell off again. And when it really mattered, when things got, when things got scary or when things got something, it was hard to really to continue to do that. And I felt there's a way in which, I mean, I have the impression that you're making that same recommendation. But you know, to take that on, it can be a little hard to know how to implement that skillfully. I mean, one has a mind. The mind is, or there. I mean, I don't know how to. I don't know if I'm speaking perfect truth here by any stretch, but the mind exists. It has its uses that are not inappropriate. You know, I do stuff in the world with it. I, you know, try to figure out how much tip to leave on a check when I used to go to a restaurant. You know, I try to, you know, read maps and stuff. But then there's the question of what it tells me. I'm just trying to figure out how to do that skillfully,
Hmm.
and I haven't
Yeah.
put that into permanent practice as a result, and I feel like
So
that's pivotal.
the conditioned mind is a bit like looking in the rearview mirror. So I agree. It has its function, can be useful. If you're trying to operate the vehicle moving forward, which really you should be for the most part, not, you know, the majority of the time, then you don't want to be looking through the rear view mirror so much. All you want to do is just be looking out. You just want to see.
But it's not a matter of, you know, I will now rip the rearview mirror out of my car because I'm not
Why?
interested.
Yeah, that's too. You could do that. I mean, I suppose there've got to be people out there who recommend that kind of approach, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Maybe they're right. Maybe that's a good approach, but I don't see the sense in it. That doesn't, not a good match with my sensibilities. I don't like the violence of it. I think
If it's not necessary, I don't particularly see,
I don't see the
you
point.
know.
Yeah, I think that if it's no longer needed, it will disappear on its own.
Mm.
Like everything in life. I mean, maybe you've noticed that it's like all the things I thought I needed, when they disappeared, I got to find out if I really needed them or not. And you know, when they disappear, maybe initially there's that little,
Oh dear.
yeah, oh no, what am I going to do? But then find out. And so far, I haven't needed those things that I didn't need.
Well, that gets a little bit to the question of support through the process,
Mhm.
maybe, because it sort of feels like, oh, you know, I still need to not spend my time staring at, like, oh, it's today again, and probably it's going to be wise not to spend all of my time looking in the rearview mirror. Perhaps I can look out.
Mhm.
But it's sort of a new, like there's a little bit of it. I haven't learned to ride a unicycle in my life,
Mhm.
but my fantasy of this is that it's like, oh wait, you know, I'm not quite up on the, I'm not quite riding.
Mhm.
You know, and there's a practice element, or I don't know, there's like,
There is, yeah, for sure, because you're, uh, you know, I'm sure you've heard it said that we're creatures of habit, which is
oh
true. And so the default is we'll keep doing what we've done.
well, and
And so the
it's
practice, and this is something that often comes up, people say, you're not saying this exactly, but a lot of people will often say, well, if it's so effortless, why does it feel like so much effort? And the reason it feels like effort at first is because you've got things inverted and you perceive what is effortful to be effortless and what you
yeah,
the other way around. And also because the momentum of the habit that continues to reassert itself, and you have
it's
to be willing
colossal,
to inhibit that just to not do it
right?
just
Well,
for a moment. And
right,
that's what we perceive that as effort at first.
and that makes complete sense to me, and I feel like, you know, with many decades of contraction. I mean, this, this fist, if I held it this way for 10 years, it would feel very much like, okay, that's normal. And to even to begin to, that's like, wow, it's like very hard to do. But then it's like, oh, that, but that, like, and it's sort of like each little creaking open of those, and so I feel like I was afforded a moment of that.
Yeah. Good.
And that was spectacular.
Yeah.
But
And then
then it became time to manage life on Earth, and it was like,
yeah.
um,
So this, great. And what, so this is, to me, it's such a, it's an important thing, because I really like the way you just phrased it, because the way you just phrased it, I think, makes it much clearer. So something happens that it's like you are transported to another world, another reality that you didn't know actually existed, and you get to taste it, and for sure that this is real. It's real. It's beyond doubt. And then you say, oh, but then it comes time to manage life again, and then it disappears and you don't know what to do. Okay, fine. I understand. It's just, it can be distressing, it can be confusing, it can be a lot of things. I understand that. But so if something is just given to you, that's nice. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's totally fine. But we're uneasy about that. So actually, what we want to have for ourselves, we want to have greater clarity on this. So when something is just given to us, and the bliss just occurs or whatever, that's nice, but we actually are not satisfied with that. That's why I said we're not satisfied with that. What satisfies us is the truth. We want to see clearly. That's what satisfies us. So we have this experience, and it's fantastic, it's wonderful, it's all these things. And then when it goes away, it's like, now we've just started. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Now we've just started. This is very exciting, because 99% of humans will not see this in their entire lifetime. They will not pause for half a second and actually see what you are seeing, what you have seen. So you've been gifted something. And most of us, when we are gifted that, so I'm sure I was gifted this many times in my life, to be honest, but I remember being gifted this 2013. I had been living in bliss, and then it vanished. I've told this story before. Okay,
I haven't heard it.
And it vanished, and I thought, I can't live like this. Like, I had forgotten what it was to be so contracted and to perceive myself in prison. And it just in an instant, it happened. I mean, I'd been in bliss, and then just like that, I remember it just happened. It was like blink of an eye, gone. And I was just desperate. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where did it go? And then the thought crossed my mind, I won't live like this. I won't. Having known what was possible, I can't. It's too horrible. So, blessedly, there was some wisdom from beyond myself that whispered within me that said, just be still. And this is a greater freedom. This is much greater. So so this experience came and it went. it did something very important for you, though. It proved to you that there's something beyond you.
It was not just an experience of bliss. I mean, there was certainly, it was highly enjoyable, but it was not an unvariable. It was,
Of course.
yeah, it was, you know, the right alignment with much larger, I mean, it was the end of a separated sensibility.
Yeah. And so now what happens, and this is so for anybody who's had a similar kind of experience, which most people here have had some glimpses of this. So this is an important thing to that we are called to integrate this into what we consider to be our lives. We're not renunciates, obviously. But it's an important point, because if we think, many of us wrongly believe that there is one path, and it is the path of the renunciate, and we're trying to do that because that's what we've been told. And forget about it. Don't try to do that, because that's not truthful. The renunciate, to answer the question, renunciate means to one who renounces the world, turns away from the world. So the you know, the somebody who goes in, you know, stereotype would be somebody who goes into a cave and just stays in the cave, never leaves the cave. They just sit there in meditation. But that's not our path. So ours is, our path is, we go and discover that light, and then we are tasked with returning with that light into the dream.
First of all, thank you. In general, you know, I feel like I got excited for a second, because there's so many different little elements to address and articulate, and one of the things that I wanted to try to admit earlier in the meeting was this idea of, you know, like very clearly the path to success on all of those worldly levels that you were pointing at, as you know, which it's possible to recognize are not going to give satisfaction. But I must admit that, of course, I want all of those worldly, I want the prizes. It's not that I've stopped wanting the prizes. I just recognize that they by themselves are not going to be it. And I also have the idea that right alignment, as a, you know, one of the precipitates, it precipitates a, you know, I recognize that I cannot make my life story be the story, you know, that by making, I'm afraid I've gotten too excited and inarticulate to put everything the way I want to, all in this hurry. I know I don't want to run us over inappropriately, but I strongly suspect that one of the things that runs off of right alignment, as I conceive it, is that the story itself will go better in the way that I mean, it'll go its own way, but it's,
Yeah, it will and it won't.
I mean, I'm instead of trying to write it, I'd rather just live and allow the story to take the shape that it takes.
That's it. That's the thing. That's the surrender, is to realize that you're not that good of a writer.
Well, and also to recognize that what wants to write it is going to write it better than I can write it.
Of course.
And so there's this, you know, I figured out years ago that I was not going to leave the world and smear my body with ashes and hold my arm up for 25 years. Mm-hmm. Like those guys that really I find amazing.
I was going to say, when you're talking about the fist, I had the image of those guys who come out for whatever, the big festival, and some of them, they say that they've been doing that for 10, 15 years, and then their fingernails grow through the hand. So good luck. Yeah. Good luck opening the fist at that point.
yeah, and I've seen many pictures of those guys who just like the discipline is to hold their arm up over their head forever. And that's I can't do that. I'm not going to wear a loincloth. I'm a householder. I'm fully here.
Mhm.
I don't know. I've run out of my linear point, but I'm really, really happy to see you and everybody here. And I don't get it. I don't get it. But pardon me. I'm a little excited and a little a little less sensical than I was at the start of my attempt to communicate. But that guidance, you know, to where the point that I began making was simply that don't believe your mind, I think is good advice. But to take it every day, to take that advice, there's something, I don't mean to make anybody into a guru, appropriately or inappropriately, but there's a way in which I have the idea that I need to see somebody renounce their mind whose mind I also want to engage with. I don't know if that
Forget
makes,
about that.
does that, what?
Forget about it. Forget about that.
Okay.
Really, because that's just more.
Stuff.
It really is. It doesn't see the messenger does not have to be perfect. The messenger does not have to have the qualities that you aspire to. The message can still be true, and you can still receive the message, and you can still recognize that the only objections that come up are objections based upon the notion that you know better.
I immediately think I can hear that. And it's helpful to hear it from you, honestly. And I don't, you know, there's something, it's amazing to me to know already. I mean, I've seen magnificent examples of people who are not doing, you know, I have a formative dance that I came up through. And so I have a particular world and there's training from that world and all of that. And I do get that it's absolutely not necessary to have done my particular dance in order to have located that which I am so hopeful to get clear enough to allow, if I could put it that way.
Well, it's just what the only clarity and the only allowing that's needed is now and this, and that's always true, and that's what's humbling. So like, okay, I have 3 young children.
Yes.
And I'm married.
I have 2 and I'm married. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I just want to make sure everybody understands that my day-to-day experience involves a lot of conflict. I mean, from the only time when there's not conflict is when everybody's asleep. Otherwise, there's arguments about everything. And if I believe that all of that needs to be different, then I'm making freedom conditional
and impossible.
And then I'm just going to say, well, I'm out of here because this is obviously not it, and I'm going to go over there.
Yeah.
But I've done enough of that. I've done so much of that that I know what I'll find over there. It's like, I think it's the John Kabat-Zinn book, wherever you go, there you are. It's totally true. Spot on. That's exactly right. I ran and ran and ran and ran and ran and ran. And I always excused it and justified it because I said, look, this situation is a mess. These people are a mess. This whole thing is terrible. I don't like it. Nobody would like it. Everybody can nod and agree. So therefore, I should go over there. And then I got over there and I found out, oh my God, it's like, I mean, like sometimes
Yeah.
this, like the different characters, but same.
Life on Earth.
It might as well be the same. And why did I go anywhere? So
But you have to find that out.
So, well, maybe, yeah. But then once we find it out, then we can just start to be honest. That's the thing. It's just that's why I'm saying the honesty takes care of all of it. Because the honesty is every time there's that impulse that says, should get out of here, should go do that, life will be better if blah, 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 all of these conditions, all of the rules, all of the everything, I see so clearly how I'm making up the fake prison. There is no prison. It's obvious there's no prison. Nobody keeps me here.
I'm a little reluctant to take everybody's time with my particularities, but I appreciate the chance to connect.
Good.
I think I'd like to set up another one-on-one chat, if you don't mind, at some point soon, if that's doable.
Yeah, my
You're moving.
availability probably for the next couple of weeks is going to be quite limited, but reach out and we'll find a time.
Sounds good.
Good.
Thanks.
I see there's one. I'm going to respond to one more thing. Yes, I know. I see. Hold on, I got to go back to the other screen. Where is it? Okay, so I can see. Yes, I see that it was an important question. I have a question. Got to make a life decision. Should I not bother with any attempts even to get certainty? You should know if you read my emails. There are some people who act like they know better. Could apply to me. Yeah, it definitely applies to you. Anybody, it always applies. We always think we know better. So I don't actually know which thing you're referring to because there are a lot of emails, so I'm not sure which email it is. I know you had mentioned some family thing. I can't tell you what you should or should not do, but what I can say is that you can see, you know, I always think this is a useful guide. Okay, ask yourself when it seems like there's something urgent that you need to figure out or you need to do, just look honestly at, is it really? Is it really? I mean, I wrote in an email the other day, I think I wrote it. I write too many emails. I think I wrote this in my public broadcast. Just the question of, is there something, am I being attacked? Is like somebody coming at me with a gun? Is somebody coming at me with a knife? Somebody strangling me? Bombs dropping? Because that would be urgent. That would be urgent. But the reason I mention this is because this has been useful for me. Because I just noticed this tendency to say, well, it's urgent. I got to do something. I got to figure it out. I got to do it now. And I realized, wait a second, that's bad. Always. Never goes well. Ever. Can't think of a single time that went well. So why don't I just start to be honest? Is there actually urgency? Really? Like really, really, really? Is there any need for me to do anything? If not, I don't need to do anything. But I can just observe how uncomfortable I become so that I can just see all of the habits of trying to fix it, trying to solve it, trying to figure it out, trying to scheme, trying to do all these things. And so the last thing we think we want is to just see this, because then we say, oh, but then I'm going to have to do something about that if I see it. Well, that's what you think. But instead, you just keep seeing. And the more you see, the more it's just like I said earlier, I think I need all kinds of things until they disappear, and then I find out that I don't need them. And life is like that. I mean, you know, if you look at your trajectory of your life, you know that you're going to lose everything. So sooner or later, you will find out that you don't need all the things that you think you need, all of them. There's not anything that you think you need that you will not someday discover that you don't need it. Whatever, anything, your career, your intelligence, your good looks, your spouse, your house, your health, your body, all of it, all your memories, all of these things, you know that you will lose all of them. So whatever is happening, let's just not lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that we're gonna win, that we're gonna gain control, we're gonna finally succeed. Let's just be honest. What's really happening is we're discovering what we don't need. Isn't that really freedom? To discover that you don't need the things that you've been burdening yourself with. So that's my best response to that. And if you want further clarification, you can email me. And I do my best to respond to emails. The more concise a person can be in their email, the better for me. So thank you, everybody. And again, these meetings are going to be on hold indefinitely, but I do have the intention to resume them, and I will send out an email about that. Thank you. Bye for now.
Thanks, Joey.